Oh, awesome. Thanks, Kendrick. Aloha, everyone. Aloha nui kako, and mahalo, and welcome for joining us today for our Kauai Destination Management Action Plan 2026 online webinar. I'm Patty Arnellis with the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and I'm the Destination Manager for Kauai. Today, we will be sharing on our draft plan. Um, we are recording this webinar, which will be posted on the HTA website within the next couple of days. Once it's posted, I will email the link out to all registered webinar attendees. We would greatly appreciate it if you would share it with your family, friends, and network. Our DMAP efforts are community driven, and sharing your mana'o will only continue our efforts in shaping this draft plan. If you are able to join us at our in-person community meetings last September and November, you'll notice some familiar faces. I think we're on the screen right now. Give me one second. Oops. Not getting my cursor to work here. Apologies, Kendrick. I'm having little technical difficulties. Okay, apologies. Joining me on the call today is Interim CEO and President Caroline Anderson, who wears many hats, and she is also our Director of Planning, along with our planner Kendrick Leong, and my fellow destination managers from our sister islands. Also on the call is Dr. Brandon Fairchild from Ward Research, who has been our partner throughout this plan's development, joining us at community meetings and working so closely with us during the data gathering and drafting phase of the plan. We are very grateful for the work he and his team did. I also wanted to take a moment to extend a most gracious mahalo nui to our community members who attended our community input sessions over the summer and the fall. And whether it was done virtually or in person, we appreciated your willingness to share your mana'o and concern about hotspots and other matters concerning destination management that were raised, and your input has been reflected in this draft. We welcome any questions and comments you have during this webinar. So we would want you folks to use the Q&A feature and we'll respond accordingly. Next slide, please. This is our agenda today. We will be sharing on the purpose of destination management, which will include the focus of this new DMAP and the principles and framework we've applied to this statewide effort. Then we'll do a little deeper dive and share on the priority actions outlined in this plan. The full draft of the DMAP in its entirety can be found on the HTA website. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a QR code that you can click on, which will direct you to it. And in case you're wondering, the draft is not just for reading. In fact, directly on the plan, you will have the ability to make comments, ask questions, inquire on clarity, and we strongly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. The portal is open now, and we'll be accepting feedback from now through March 2nd until 11:59 Hawaii Standard Time, or 11:59 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. In case you happen to be shy, like some of us, your comments will be hidden from public view and will only be seen by us on the back end. And then to close up, we will share on next steps. At this time, I would like to now pass it on to Caroline Anderson. Caroline?
Thanks, Patty. Aloha, everyone. Thanks again for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules. Probably you're eating lunch right now. But yeah, thanks again for being here. And we are happy to share out with you the draft 2026 Destination Management Action Plan for Kauai. You'll see throughout this presentation, Patty and Kendrick will be explaining to you the DMAP process that we did this year. We'll also walk you through the plan, the components of it, the proposed proposed priority sites and the actions, and also share out with you how you can provide your input to the draft actions. Next slide, please. And for those of you who don't know, back in 2020, when the Hawaii Tourism Authority did its strategic plan, we called for focus on destination management. And because of this, we developed the first iteration of the destination management action plans for each island. This was a plan that was meant to reset, rebuild tourism to the type of tourism that that island wants to see. And that plan was very broad and encompassed a lot of different destination management types of activities, from, visitor messaging to resident communication to product development to addressing hotspots. Moving forward with this new plan, with this next iteration of DMAPs, we will focus more on, you'll see the identification and prioritization of hotspots and actions to mitigate impact there. What hasn't changed from the last DMAP is the process that we did to make sure that community voices are heard. And so you'll see in the following slides how we went about with that approach. I just wanted to thank everybody who's been involved so far in providing input and feedback, our community, our visitor industry, and especially our government agencies, both state and county agencies. We value the partnership with everyone, all of our stakeholders. You'll also see that we are really making sure that we are being collaborative in our intentions for this plan. And as you can see here, that HTA is that convening agency that can bring the different government agencies together, industry, and community. Next slide, please. And so, as we reflect upon the 2021 plan, and we could understand what worked, what could be done better. Again, this next plan you'll see as Patty presents it, it's really focused on a couple of hotspots and ways to mitigate those impacts. And you'll also see other destination management types of activities that we also want to move forward with through our own HTA programs. Next slide, please. As I just mentioned earlier, we wanted to make sure that community voices were heard as well as industry voices. So back in August, we held public input sessions, both through webinars and in person. In November, again, wanted to thank Brandon and his team at Ward Research. We drafted proposed actions. We reviewed all the public feedback, as well as I wanted to also thank our advisory group members. And Patty will explain more on that, but wanted to thank them also for being part of this whole process and providing their feedback and mana'o into the actions and priority sites. Where we're at now is in the public draft review process. And like Patty had mentioned, we look forward to receiving comments by March 2nd. And from that, we will review the comments, input. We are still working with our various state and county agencies to make sure that we have their buy-in in the proposed actions. And then from that, we are looking to finalize the plan by the end of March and having it published in April. And with that, I will turn it back over to Patty. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Ooh, didn't work just that high. Okay. Okay, thank you. So can we get the next, are we up on the next slide, Kendrick? Okay, so our advisory group. This next few slides, going back to the first iteration of our DMAPs, which were introduced back in 2021, back then and now, guiding the plan took on and takes on an active collaboration between government agencies, the visitor industry, and community stakeholders. It is very important to have a collective group to help us move these efforts forward. So this HUI this time around is called our DMAP Advisory Group. And over the next four slides, we'd like to recognize and mahalo the 26 members of our current advisory group. Some names and faces may be familiar to you, some may not, but get to know them because they are exceptional in what they do and their love and their passion for our island, Kauai. The group is comprised of Kauai residents, with the exception of one. His name is Alan Carpenter. Alan, sorry, calling you out. He's the acting administrator for DLNR, Division of State Parks. He's from Oahu, but then, Alan is no stranger to Kauai. His direct involvement with many DLNR, DSP projects and efforts across Kauai are very well known. You'll see that our advisory group includes Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners, residents working in the visitor industry, business owners of island activities, and Aina-based stewardship organization. It also brings together county partners like the Office of Economic Development, various divisions of DLNR, including forestry and wildlife, boating and ocean recreation, and conservation and resources enforcement, as well as representatives from other sectors such as our education from KCC, agriculture, and also, again, economic development. Mahalo nui to our advisory group members. We truly appreciate your support and dedication to caring for our island and guiding its destination management efforts forward. Right now, I'd like to take the time to turn over to Kendrick for his little input here. Kendrick?
Yeah, thank you, Patty. I mean, I can't thank our advisory group enough for helping me and helping Brandon and the word research team better understand what we're hearing across our community input sessions. It's one thing for us to facilitate those sessions, but another thing to have such constructive voices being able to advise us on prioritization of hotspots, identification of hotspots, proposing actions in a way that reflect what community has been saying. So with that, I wanted to speak a little bit about how we went through identifying our hotspots and prioritizing hotspots for this round of the DMAPs. With our focus on these sites under strain, we really wanted to focus HTA resources and interagency collaborative resources on places where the need is most acute, but also where we can get the most done over the next 3 years, the lifespan of the plan. When we are identifying a list of hotspots, there was a good list from the last DMAP 1.0. We built on that by asking ourselves 3 questions when we go out into community. First, is the site under strain? Second, how serious is that strain? And third, how effectively can we respond within the scope of the DMAP and the scope of our collaborations with state and county agencies? So for the first question, is the site strained? There are 4 factors that help us understand if that site is strained. The first is access. And so we're looking at roads, parking areas, or trailheads. Are those ways that people access the site overwhelmed? Once they get there, we look at on-site capacity. When visitors arrive, can the site handle those volumes? Are the trails or lookouts or facilities being pushed beyond what they are designed or able to support? Third, we looked at resident impact, and we listened to how often sites were raised in our community input sessions and how participants describe the strain. Are there noise, traffic, or other impacts to surrounding neighborhoods at the site? And then finally, site degradation. And by that, we mean, is there erosion, litter, or a maintenance burden that keeps escalating? We asked about context and how serious or consequential is that strain. The first factor is cultural sensitivity, including wahipana, our storied places on Kauai, and specific cultural markers like heiau. We recognize that all Aina is sacred, but here we're specifically talking about places where there are particular cultural features that might heighten the impact. of current usage. We also assessed environmental sensitivities, so fragile ecosystems at sites, native species habitats, or areas that are already stressed by climate impacts. Next, are there any safety risks at the site? Things like cliffs or wave surges, flooding, even traffic conflicts can create injuries. Next, how does social media or commercial marketing affect the visibility of the site? Is that promotion through these channels exacerbating the current issues that residents are reporting there? And then finally, local economic benefit. What we mean by this is whether or not there's already some kind of tangible benefit to the surrounding community because of visitation. Put another way, are the current usage patterns supporting local businesses or stewards or land managers or residents near the site? And then finally, our third big question, feasibility. And in this one, stakeholder input was especially important. We thought about how often sites were raised as concerns in our input sessions, how urgent the strain was reported, and especially whether there was clear jurisdiction, if there are ready and willing management or stewardship partners there, what kind of costs are realistic for the actions that might be proposed. And then finally, alignment with HTA's statutory mandate within the DMAP lifespan. I want to pull out how important jurisdiction here is because HTA ourselves, we don't own or manage land. So making sure that kuleana responsibility for the specific site is clear. And if there's an openness to action among the landowners or managers or stewards, there is especially important. So with these three categories together, we're essentially asking, is this a place where action is both needed and is that action actually possible within the 3 years? And so once we identified priority hotspots, we started on considering possible actions there. In many cases, the actions or the ideas for actions came directly from Kauai residents at our input sessions or in individual outreach and emails or in discussions with our destination manager, Patty. We evaluated proposed actions based on two considerations. So first, alignment. How does the proposed action align with what residents near the hotspot envision for their site? And so stakeholder suggestions here shape the starting point, and they gave us ideas about, could there be better visitor education there, or could there be on-site data collection? Do we need to understand conditions there a little better? And then second, feasibility. What can HTA ourselves or with our sister state and county agencies, community partners, et cetera, reasonably accomplish together throughout the 3 years of the plan? And so you'll see in our next section discussing the hotspots and some of the concerns raised island-wide that the proposed actions have been raised by residents and then kind of filtered through our best judgment about our partnerships with state and county agencies, and especially, what we can see as feasible with the resources that we have for this plan. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Patty, and let's get into some of these hotspots.
Awesome. Mahalo, Kendrick. Thank you for that pieces of information, which I think is really great to kind of set the understanding of why our DMAP, this iteration is definitely different from last iteration. So on this slide, we share with you the 3 priority hotspots that we will be addressing in this draft DMAP, which is the Kapa'a Wailua Corridor, the Ho'opi'i Falls, and Kokee and Waimea Canyon. And then we'll have some island-wide actions which are proposed, which again, is hopefully to relieve the pressure off of those priority hotspots. Next slide, please. So the first priority hotspot is the Kapa'a Wailua Corridor. We all know about the challenges of the Kapa'a Wailua Corridor, otherwise known as, AKA, the Kapa'a Crawl. If you're living there, I apologize. It is not, it is a challenge for sure. It's the East Kauai's busiest roadway that is used by residents, workers, and visitors along Kuhio Highway. We heard from our community, from our meetings, about the need for more public transits and shuttles to alleviate traffic, alternating times of traffic flows, and requests for more communication on safety messages for drivers and pedestrians. Culling together the comments, this slide right here kind of basically shows you what the priorities that were identified by the community. And although there are several mobility investments that are currently underway, we are focusing our efforts to align with the county supported, which was previously led by them, the Coconut Marketplace Mobility Hub, CMMH. I'll refer to that as that, which aims to get rental cars off the road and really basically and hope to reimagine how visitors move through East Kauai, which will create a safer, more connected, and less car dependent corridor that better serves both the residents and visitors with a shuttle system and on-site car rental. Next slide, please. So for this Kapa'a Wailoa corridor, which will acronym to KWC, there's 3 management actions which have been identified to help support this priority hotspot. So KWC1 is to design and install a corridor stewardship and wayfinding signage. The goal is to improve visitor navigation, parking behavior, on-site conduct throughout the Kapa'a Wailoa corridor by implementing a coordinated system of wayfinding and stewardship signage that supports safe environment, cultural respect, and access to the shared use path network. You might be asking, why is this important? Through listening to what the community shared, it appeared that a clear and consistent wayfinding system is needed to help visitors and residents alike navigate walking and biking paths, shuttle routes, parking through the Kapa'a Wailoa corridor. Community feedback also during this DMAP process highlighted the need. They cited visitor confusion, unsafe pedestrian behavior, and roadside stopping along the highway, which is completely dangerous because that corridor is so narrow, and also at key access points. So, we were looking at wanting to convert inconsistent messaging to consistent, more easy to understand messaging that will be helpful for both visitors and residents. By collaborating with partners, we will, for this particular management action, we are hoping to aim to review existing signage along the Kapa'a Wailoa corridor and develop a coordinated framework for wayfinding, parking guidance, and stewardship messaging. Through community and stakeholder input, we will look to ensure that cultural considerations are taken into heart, accessibility, priority locations, and then hopefully the plan is to pilot about 15 integrated signs at key access points, parking areas, cultural sites, and connections between the Coconut Marketplace, Wailua, Waipoli, and Kapa'a. The support, of course, will be with our collaborative partners, HTA, and the CMMH Hui, the initiative that will ensure coordination with the landowners, funding, and of course, installation. KWC2, which is to launch a Coconut Marketplace-based Kauai visitor information booth. The goal for that is to establish and operate a staffed visitor information booth at Coconut Marketplace that will welcome visitors and provide them with values-based orientation, safety and cultural guidance, and also multimodal travel information that is really set in a more neutral visitor, and you can even consider resident serving manner, aligning with our community priorities. So, the Coconut Marketplace, again, as the hub, is that neutral area because it's not necessarily that you have to be a guest at a hotel, like any visitor can go there. We found that feedback from the DMAP process highlighted the need for visitor education that reflects community values, promotes safety, and supports informed choices. CMMH identified the marketplace as a high traffic location, all definitely ideal for a staffed visitor information booth, providing guidance on transportation ideas and encouraging a respectful engagement with Kauai's communities. We are hoping that this approach creates a dedicated public serving orientation and stewardship resource that can evolve toward long-term sustainability beyond this DMAP period and hopefully extend outside to like the North Shore, the South Shore, the West Side. So kind of use this as a template on how we can get into the different mindset of multimodal transportation and alleviating the stress and pressure off of our roadways that we have across the island. In looking at helping to support the visitor information booth at the marketplace, it's really going to take us to take a look at our inventory of existing materials, procure an operator with fund startup and operating costs. So we hope that with what the intention and the desire is to get this visitor booth running, it will be beneficial for not only for the visitors so that they can have this visitor information booth, but also for a local business, bringing the economy back into their efforts and really sustaining that and kind of having a really circular economy. The third management action, which is KWC3, is to promote and integrate the Coconut Marketplace Mobility Hub and associated multimodal transportation options. The goal for this is to increase awareness and use the Coconut Marketplace Mobility Hub and associated multimodal transportation options by promoting them through visitor-facing channels and supporting integration with the area accommodations, transportation providers, and on-site services. So of course, social media, like that would be huge to utilize them to help promote this an alternative to transportation. Have it promoted within the resorts along the Royal Coconut Coast area and elsewhere, really. Our Uber and Lyft drivers and all of those type of transportation providers. Anybody I think this would benefit to have it be promoted consistently across the board. Again, it is combining on-site visibility, destination level marketing, coordinated partnerships, so that hopefully, again, we encourage this adoption of this alternative mobility across Kauai's broader visitor and resident mobility system, which again will benefit both residents and visitors. Next slide, please. Our second priority hotspot that we are going to tackle is Ho'opi'i Falls. As most of us know, Ho'opi'i Falls features two beautiful small waterfalls along Kapaa Stream, accessible via an unmaintained 2-mile trail crossing private and leased state lands. What many may not be aware of is that though not officially sanctioned, the site has gained tremendous popularity through social media, attracting many visitors who often like to park along the narrow roads or at nearby Kapahi County Park to hike, take photos, or rock jump, resulting in rapidly increasing visitation. This area, I'm sure you've all seen on social media and heard from the residents, it's been very much overwhelmingly challenging and stressful for them, especially for those that live along Kapahi Road. We heard at our community meetings how strongly our community feels Ho'opi'i Falls needs a tourism, traffic control, and monitoring function, speed bumps. A lot of different ideas came about. Unmanaged visitation has really led to safety hazards and concerns, traffic, litter, and trespassing, and disrupting the local community. So the local residents have, taken up informal measures, and you've seen the photos. They've been placing rocks and tree stumps to protect their neighborhood. But, really, what can we do to help with the need for management intervention to restore safety, access, and community balance? This slide here shows what the community has said and that we'll be looking at towards as our priorities. Next slide, please. So for Ho'opi'i Falls, we have three management actions. HF1 is conduct a site-based data collection to inform long-term management. Um, Establish a time-limited site-based data collection pilot to better document and understand visitation patterns, access conditions, and use dynamics at Ho'opi'i Falls in order to inform a longer-term access and stewardship decision. Our intention is to engage a qualified organization in time to conduct that um, gathering of data. And this, of course, will be in coordination with the county and other state agencies, and just make sure that we're aligned with the site conditions and the jurisdictional requirements, because that area itself, multi-jurisdiction. So it's, who owns where, what, how, so like, we really need to make sure that when we do move forward, that everyone really understands. And I don't, I mean everyone beyond the residents. Everyone should understand what the limiting factors are and how we're trying to go about mitigating the stress and the challenges that they have. Hopefully what comes from this data collection will help us guide visitor messaging, evaluate access and safety conditions, and of course, inform some management options. Definitely focused on safety and awareness. That's also going to be important to us. For HF2, it's design and run a media messaging campaign on site safety and caution. The goal is to reduce unsafe or inappropriate promotion of Ho'opi'i Falls and align visitor-facing messaging across digital, print, and industry channels with community safety, access realities, and neighborhood respect. From our community and advisory group input, we heard that social media and online content, and we've seen, have truly again transformed Ho'opi'i Falls from a quiet neighborhood site that back in the day, everybody used to go, all the locals, everybody grew up at Ho'opi'i Falls, but it's now turned into, of course, the high traffic destination. Misleading and incomplete information has only increased trespassing, parking conflicts, and safety risk for visitors and residents. Our hope is that we will listen to what the community has said, that, more, again, coordinated, proactive messaging across social media, maps, some print, and print media, industry channels can help us correct that information, discourage unsafe behavior, as well as guide visitors to a more safer alternative. What this will be is what can come from this is, again, standard caution language, visuals, alternative site information can be created and distributed, really monitoring social and digital channels. And again, just having everyone be on board and saying the same message about like how we want to mitigate the stress and the challenges that are affecting the residents over at Kapahi Road, fronting Ho'opi'i Falls. HF3 is advance a long-term access, circulation, and stewardship decisions. The goal for this is to reach a timely community-informed determinations on long-term access, circulation, and stewardship pathways for Ho'opi'i Falls and their surrounding neighborhood, while clarifying roles, responsibilities, and next steps to advance. As I mentioned, that area, completely fragmented land ownership, mixed jurisdictional, not official as far as access, and then the roadways again are very restrictive too in a way because it's just one road in and out. So we are looking at our proposal is in this first this first part of addressing Ho'opi'i Falls is looking towards convening meetings and getting all of the team players, all of the stakeholders, counties, state agencies, just everyone involved, because for myself, I've actually heard where people are unfamiliar with, again, I'll go back to the multi-jurisdiction. And, what happens that fixed a certain situation that is similar to what's happening in Ho'opi Falls has occurred and is working in that one specific area may not work for Ho'opi'i, for Kapahi Road, for this location. So it's convening these meetings so that everyone can be on the same page. Everyone is hearing the same information, story, the same messaging. And from there, we can better collate our ideas and knowing like based on our restrictions, and what opportunities we have, how we can move forward into then progressing into doing a study, a feasible study on what opportunities are out there that we can to help mitigate in the long term this. Because I mean, for myself, I can honestly say I wouldn't want a Band-Aid on it. Again, it affects Kapahi Park, the parking there. So like we just need all the players in together with our community, and that's immediate community as well as the larger community, again, so that we can all hear at the same messaging and really move forward collectively on how we can help benefit this Ho'opi Falls and preserve it for our keiki, for our island of Kauai. Next slide, please. The third priority hotspot is Kokee and the Waimea Canyon. Kokee and Waimea Canyon, spans tons of acreage. And of course, it offers you beautiful landscapes and opportunities for both locals and visitors. But the rising visitation has created much strain on the narrow roads, limited parking, crowded lookouts, and making access increasingly difficult and unpredictable. In case you may not have been aware, because quite honestly, I wasn't, there was a 2014 Kokee Waimea Canyon Master Plan that established foundational management strategies. Thank you to Dr. Fairchild for bringing this up because I would never have known about this. And however, rising visitation and social media driven travel have created new safety and congestion challenges. While parking fees help manage demand, many visitors stop at unofficial locations. You know where I'm talking about, which increases roadside risks, trail wear, and rescues. And of course, highlighting the need for coordinated data-driven visitor management. From our community meetings across the island, we heard Kokee has a capacity issue. Of course, traffic congestion. Roads need to be worked on. But paving the road work is going on at the moment right now. So also the issue of illegal no parking along the roadside. And this is one area as visitors want to see the red dirt waterfall, which is not, you guys know that, and safety issues. So this slide right here shows the priorities that the community consistently identified through our meetings, actually across from west side to east side to north shore. These priorities came about as talking points. Next slide, please. So for Kokee and Waimea Canyon, there is 4 management action items that have been identified in this draft DMAP. And so the first one would be KKW1, which is install automated counters, excuse me, for visitor use data collection. The goal here is to establish a consistent baseline and ongoing visitor use monitoring system, which will inform safety, congestion, visitor management decisions across the Waimea Kokee corridor. Why are we doing that? Because, there is very limited data on visitation, parking, and trail use. I don't foresee some grouping sitting there and clicking for every car that goes past and everybody that walks through a trail, a high-used traffic trail. So what this would be, installing these automated visitor and vehicle counters at key sites, they'll provide a really quantitative baseline to guide our operations, our future managed access, possibly shuttle, stewardship, and other infrastructure decisions. So, along with key players, and the one key player here is, of course, DLNR, and their divisions, uh, in coordination with HTA and the county agencies. We'll look at identifying key locations along the Waimea Canyon Kokee corridor for automated visitor and vehicle counters, determine the best counter types, and of course have them installed so that, again, we can really establish reliable baseline for monitoring and management, which will then actually help lead us to address more issues that have come up, and in conversation. KKW2 is to execute a trail stewardship and safety signage pilot. This is to improve visitor safety and understanding of Koke'e's landscape through coordinated trailhead signage and targeted on-site stewardship informed by observed use patterns and agency experience. Although this here is not really going to be part of our proposed FY27 focus, our intention is to use visitor use patterns and hotspot data along with agency experience, again, to select at least 5 high-use trailheads for our pilot program. And again, it's really to see how best we can, with the tracking counters, have these signage that will be beneficial to the visitors and the residents, and that there is clear messaging, accurate messaging, for everyone so that they can enjoy, and have the benefit of the trail, without any safety concerns. KKW3 is to conduct a Kokee Waimea Canyon visitor access and shuttle feasibility. What this is to evaluate practical data and community-informed options for managed visitor access in the park, including shuttle and possibly reservation-based approaches, and that's to improve safety, mobility, and visitor experience. KKW4 would be to develop a Waimea Canyon Drive highway safety and access management framework. Well, that's a lot of words. The goal for this is to improve safety and predictability along the state highway segment of Waimea Canyon Drive by advancing a coordinated framework to address the roadside stopping, the congestion, and visitor access outside of park boundaries. Again, this particular one is not something that we are proposing to address in this first fiscal year. So I encourage you to read the plan to see how we plan to formulate our collective efforts moving forward. Kendrick, did you have anything you wanted to add in any of the 3 hotspots before we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, just before we head into some island-wide actions, I just wanted to underscore what we're hearing, especially on Kauai, that destination management is so holistic and it spans so many different issue areas, from visitor education to encouraging people to move with Aloha, whether that's in cars or on bikes, etc., as well as spanning so many different scales, right? So as we're looking at the 3 priority hotspots here, you're just talking about Kokee and Waimea Canyon, we'll be working closely with state parks on this one. For Ho'opi'i Falls, that's really a facilitative action in that we move at the speed of community and we leave them better equipped to work on those issues. And then the first one, Coconut Marketplace Mobility Hub, I just wanted to commend our county friends for standing that up, and then especially in their transition to nonprofit management of the hub. But in each of these 3 priority hotspots, we're activating different folks in our network and letting each agency, community, group really do what they do best. So taking site-specific action and elevating it to be a good example, I think, is one of Kauai's strengths that we're hearing, and especially that I've felt in doing our community input sessions, on all four corners of the island. So all I wanted to say here was, we're spanning many different collaborative actions and engaging different partners in each one. And I think that's one of the strengths that I really heard doing our input on Kauai. It's a Kako thing, especially on your island, Patty.
Mhm. Thanks, Kendrick. Thanks so much. We're almost done. So if we can just move on to the next slide. So this slide is about island-wide actions. The proposed island-wide actions are really not the main focus of our DMAP. However, it was important to list them because the topics that were brought up in our community meetings, and they touched upon these subject matters such as visitor education, program activation, community support, stewardship, resident engagement, and interagency coordination. Collectively, if you look at all of those, can really help strengthen the overall management effort that we're trying to do with destination management and our destination management action plan. So the one that I like to actually just kind of touch on is IW4, maintain an ongoing dialogue for Kauai DMAP implementation. So stemming from our previous DMAP iteration, we had a focused resident communications action item that allowed us to share and promote on DMAP on a pretty consistent basis. Keeping our community and visitors in the know was really important to us as it kept us transparent and really helped build trust. And that is something that myself, Sue Kanoho with the Kauai Visitors Bureau, Nalani Bruin over at the Office of Economic Development, and just the teams under these, Sue and Nalani, like it really was our goal to make sure that we were keeping the DMAP front of mind. And so it is our continued goal that we have meetings in communities to share on DMAP, as well as not only to share on DMAP, but really to listen to our community, because your voices are what matters. Next slide, please. Which then brings me to our last slide. Again, we encourage you to keep your voice going. Click on the QR code to read the draft DMAP in its entirety and share your feedback. This is our finalized timeline. March 16th, we are hoping to get the final content draft. End of March, the plan to be reviewed by our HTA board. And as Carolyn mentioned previously, on the planning timeline, hopefully publicize the plan end of April. Tossing it back to you again, Kendrick, in case I missed anything.
Yeah, thank you, Patty. I just wanted to highlight again our finalization timeline. And so, we're really trying to package everything in a way that fits with the legislative budgeting cycle. And so that means our proposed actions for this upcoming fiscal year 2027, it would be nice for us to be able to present those proposed actions to the legislators so that they understand, all the things that we're trying to do in destination management. So that's why working backwards from April, we're having this review period now. Patty, yours and my email is at the bottom.
Yes.
Shoot us an email with any questions or comments you might have after this webinar. Just to tie up the housekeeping things, after this, I will edit this video, trim it down, and then get it up on our website on YouTube. We'll also be posting these slides, so you can expect those on the same page as the DMAP review. All the way at the bottom, you'll see Hawaii Island, Oahu, and Maui's webinar slides are already up.
Cool. Thanks so much, Kendrick. Was there any questions that you think came through the Q&A that we need to address? Otherwise, I can wrap it up.
Yeah, maybe if folks have a couple of seconds, if they had any questions, drop them in the Q&A and we'll see them here on the back.
Or again, as Kendrick mentioned, my email is there, his email is there. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm looking forward to this Next iteration, it's much, much different from the first one, much more focused. Yeah, but I think I'm going to give you guys back some of your lunchtime because it is lunchtime. I did want to close up with this. So if you've sat in or attended any of the past presentations on DMAP that I've done, you always know I always close with this. E kulike kako. We're all in this together. For real, we are all in this together. And I count on you and your ohana and your networks to join us in this movement because moving together is going to make a difference. With that, mahalo nui for joining us, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Mahalo. Have a great day.
Mahalo, everybody.